Thank you very much. In this presentation, I'm going to talk on what is this understanding of technology and its limitation. Compared to other Japanese philosophers during his era, such as Nishida and Miki, Watsuji's understanding of technology has not received much attention from researchers. On the other hand, the significance of his philosophy, especially his book Climate, has been recognized in environmental philosophy since the 1980s. There, he explains the inseparable relationship between human beings and climate, in which he also situates tools. So it can be said that some aspects have been already recognized in academics, but I'd like to talk more in detail today. This presentation has 3 questions. 1. How does Watsuji understand technology? 2. How is Watsuji's understanding of technology related to his ethics? 3. What is the limit of Watsuji's understanding of technology? And today I'm going to show that 1. According to Watsuji, tools are a part of expressions of human relationships. 2. In Watsuji's ethics, tools play a part of a movement of coming back as a phenomenon of the good. 3. But as a limitation, Watsuji misses consideration of creativity, which is an important aspect of technology, because he rejects the environment outside human. Now, let's start from the first. In the lecture notes, Thoughts on National Character, the article Climate, and the book Climate, Watsuji explains equipment or tools as a form of self-understanding produced through sensible interactions with the environment. For example, house, umbrella, clothing, in a comparison with Heidegger's example of hammers, which guides our rather active interaction with the environment. As I said before, this understanding is relatively known by scholars. But in the book, Ethics as the Study of Human Beings and his masterpiece, Ethics, Watsuji emphasizes that tools are a part of expressions of subjective human relationships. For example, hammer as an expression of the organization of handicraft labor. Watsuji says, equipment is already an expression of aidagara, or human relationship, and not merely something to hand for me. Thus, we seek channels to human existence in daily expressions of that existence, such as looking at one another, talking to one another, interacting one another, as well as in the various ways these daily relationships are expressed in material objects. Our everydayness rests on an understanding of all these modes of expressions. Also, he says, some things like dealing with tools are only possible because the tools themselves are already grounded in human relationships. Even if we take the example Heidegger often uses of dealing with handicrafted tools, these dealings only become real when grounded in the organization of handicraft labor in the sense of the human relationships involved in activity. Then, how does this understanding of tools related to Watsuji's ethics? The simple proposal of Watsuji's ethics is the good is responding to trust, and the evil is betraying trust. Trust can be interpreted as expectation of future actions based on past. Watsuji coins a term, movement of coming back. It is kirai no undo in Japanese. He considers the spatial and temporal structure of human action is a movement toward a new human relationship based on a former one. For example, the act of walking to a friend's house or to one's place of work already implies a human relationship with both a past and a future. This fundamental nature of human action serves as the foundation of trust relationship. In the examination of our ethical relationships, Watsuji mentions numerous tools we use in daily life. For example, hammer, dining table, and classroom, or even pajamas. There, we can observe these tools play a part of a movement of coming back, which means they contribute to our response to trust and the realization of a phenomenon of the good, as our human relationship contains certain tools. For example, a classroom helps realizing teacher and student relationship. On the other hand, there are limitations of Watsuji's understanding of technology. I will say Watsuji's philosophy lacks consideration of creativity, an important aspect of technology. It is because he rejects the idea of environment or the world outside human. As I already mentioned, Watsuji considers objective things are expressions of subjective human existence or subjective human relationships. Here is an image I made to visualize Watsuji's understanding of subject and object. In Watsuji's philosophy, in the book Ethics, subject is the basis of all objects. Watsuji says that subject is something which cannot be object of our relation. Subject is something which cannot be object of our recognition directly, but only appears through its objective expression. And he situates human relationships or human existence as the subject. To explain this, I often say we believe that human relationships exist, but we cannot point out a certain object and say this is the human relationship. We can only know that they exist, the human relationships exist, as they are expressed in our objective actions. This is I think it's quite convincing, but on the other hand, Watsuji does not theoretically explain how the change in the form of human relationships occur. In this image, he does not explain the mechanism of this red arrow. I'm not sure whether you can see. Yeah, the red arrow I'm pointing. I would say this comes from his rejection of the concept of environment or the world outside human. I quote, "A local landscape does not indicate an area where a community has left its mark on the natural world that stands opposed to it, but the place where the community uses the land to express the content of how it structures human relationships. At this point, the concept of environment, formed by individual perspective, will not be valid for human existence in between an individual and an individual." So he thinks environment is not a valid concept for considering our existence. And he even says that the word technology or gijutsu is an abstract idea. There is no human technology which has been formed not socially. Therefore, it is already abstract to comprehend technology detached from human relationship. Hunting of primitive man was actually a social action by primitive man. He was working to get food for the clan as its member. We can think of mere technology only after detaching the nexus of the clan from such action. Of course, Watsuji mentions that the society changes its form by individuals' work or action. However, according to him, a new form of society realized by an individual is already sought by the society beforehand. For example, he says that a work by individual can impress people because people have already sought for this form by themselves. He also mentions that when an individual changes the consciousness of the whole, it can be said that the individual forms what the whole already felt. But Watsuji does not explain how the whole of society starts thinking and expecting the new form in the first place. Here, I would say that consideration of discontinuity between subject and object is necessary for revealing the mechanism of the creation of new form. I've actually gotten this idea from Nishida and Miki. Nishida says that the environment must be something beyond subjective comprehension. I quote, "The environment is not just what comprehended subjectively. If so, it is the same as saying there is no environment." So this sentence can be a criticism to Watsuji. When the world determines itself uniquely, from the created to the created, as contradictory self-identity, we can say that the subject determines the environment and the environment determines the subject. And Miki, in his article, Ethics and Human, he says there are two types of ethics, namely normative ethics and human ethics. Normative ethics is the one of closed society where subject is in an organic harmony with object. On the other hand, human ethics is the one of open society where subject is in a transcendent and discontinuous relation with object. Miki says that a gradual expansion of closed society never reaches open society, and a big leap is necessary for that transition. Miki says that I think it is important to pay attention to creativity in ethical cultures that many of existing study of ethics dismiss. An obligation of normative ethics was also an individual's ingenious invention at their beginning. And later Miki locates technology as the mediator between this continuous subject and object. He says if he considers that technology in its fundamental sense, that is the technology which creates tools, the nature of technology must be mediation between subject and object. Finally, I would say that the fundamental difference between Watsuji and Nishida Miki lies in the position of human existence in the world. For Watsuji, as I already mentioned, human existence is the foundation of all. I quote, "All, including the historical world, natural world, and logics, are found in the realm of human existence. Subjective human existence is the foundation of all objective beings." But for Nishida and Miki, human existence is a part of the nature of the world. Nishida says that we must go back to before the appearance of human beings to understand the nature of historical development, and the appearance of human beings must be a result of the biological revolution for millions of years. Miki says, forms of living organisms can be seen as unity of the subjective and the objective as adaptations of living organisms to their environment, as said by evolutionary theorists. Here we can see chronology of the nature. Now, let me summarize. This presentation has had three questions. How does Watsuji understand technology? How is Watsuji's understanding of technology related to his ethics? And finally, what is the limit of Watsuji's understanding of technology? Then, this presentation has shown that, according to Watsuji, tools are a part of expressions of human relations. In Watsuji's ethics, tools play a part of a movement of coming back as a phenomenon of the good. But as a limitation, Watsuji misses consideration of creativity, which is an important aspect of technology, because he rejects the environment outside human. Thank you very much for listening.